Hey everybody, how's everybody doing? Why can't I hear Natalie?
Can hear me.
Okay, now we can hear you.
Hi.
Hi Puleng, can't hear you Puleng.
Hi, this is Kyle. I'm gonna turn my video on in a sec. I just need to wipe my glasses.
We're live, just so you know. I can't hear you Puleng still. Your audio is not connected. Yeah, just connected and then it went off again. Okay, cool. Kyle's here. Hi everybody, how y'all doing?
Good, thanks. How are you?
Good. So you can hear me properly now and everything. Yeah. Cool. We're live, so welcome to everybody who's watching this right now on Swapcard, YouTube, and our website. Thank you for joining us. This is the last session for today. This is going to be a great session around one of my favorite topics, which is around photography, motion art, digital art, collage work, and everything as digital art, basically. My name is Dennis Piri. I'm the curator of Fak'ugesi this year. I'm in Hong Precinct right now, but the festival is mainly online. And this is one of the sessions that we're holding to Boston today. And then the festival is about 10 days, from the 14th to 24th. And looking forward to it, and I hope all of you are. So cool. So today's discussion is around digital art, like I mentioned, but around the photography, collage, manipulating motion art, all that kind of stuff. Allow them to introduce themselves. Okay, I think am I better now? Okay, cool. So, you can't hear me, Pulang?
Well, well, I'm not sure if it's on my end or yours, but I'm hearing like this. Yeah, now it's starting.
Now it's fine. Okay, all right, apologies for that. Yeah, cool. So, please introduce yourselves. Okay, that's weird. My computer. No. Please give me a second. There's nothing else open. Okay, now?
But I can it's it's
Okay, that's weird. Maybe everybody mute and then let's see. Because I'm getting feedback from somewhere. Is that better now? Or not?
The
Technology.
audio, it's just that there's like a static sound that flows, but you fully audio.
Yeah, I'm getting feedback from somewhere.
Yeah.
I'm not sure who it is. Okay, but I think let's try and continue. Cool. I mean, I can mute so long and then you guys can start your introductions to the audience. Yeah, who wants to go first? Puling, we can't hear you properly. You're like far away from the audio. I don't know why.
And now? Good.
You can start.
Okay. My name is Buleng Mongale, and I am predominantly a digital artist. My main medium is photography, self-portraiture to be specific, also found images either sourced from the internet or family photos. And I am based in Johannesburg, South Africa.
Don't be shy. Who wants to go next?
Kyle, me. Hi, I'm Natalie Pang, and I am a multidisciplinary artist, new media artist. I just do a lot, but I live in the digital space a lot, and I'm also based in Johannesburg, South Africa.
Hi, I'm Kyle, and I'm a Malawian visual artist. I started my practice primarily in photography, and over the past few years, it's been evolving to incorporate other digital mediums and using like different digital tools. I'm mostly I like to say that I'm based in Lilongwe, Malawi, but I'm often found elsewhere. You know, I feel like that's a good summary of how I work. And like Puleng, a lot of my photography is also self-portraiture.
Amazing, amazing. I'm half Malawian, so and I'm based in South Africa, so that's quite cool. Well, thank you so much for participating in this conversation. I think when I thought about this conversation, because also I am a freelance photographer, more documentary than anything else, and I've seen Puleng and Natalie's work and your work, Kyle, and I've always been amazed at the technique required and thought process and all that kind of stuff. What inspires, especially for Natalie, how do you define your work to anybody?
It's just, it's so hard. It's evolved so much. And so now I feel like I'm in a new phase of my work. But I always describe it right now. Like, it's interesting that we're speaking about photography because I started mainly in photography and like self-portraiture in the same way as Buleng and Kyle. And I kind of moved towards video. So I explain myself as a video artist sometimes to people. Like, I always have to try simplify it. But I don't know how to explain what I do, but I just know that I'm there and it's kind of trippy. And I'm also like really interested in world building now. So I think I see myself as a world builder instead of just like a photographer or somebody who's behind the lens, kind of extending from just being the like subject matter to actually creating an experience through the world, and creating worlds.
That's amazing. And for you, Kyle, how do you define yourself, or how do you explain to people when they ask?
I like visual artists because it doesn't require that I glom onto one specific medium. And I think that my interest or the topic at hand often dictates how I express the work. But I think that primarily I am a digital artist. And I think that's also really like a core tenet of my work, whether it's photography or augmented reality. I try to kind of merge the things that I'm interested in more than anything and see what stories I can tell. When I describe the work, I usually just say that it's an autobiographical reflection of society and the selves, so just different things that interest me, as well as thinking about how the societal influence, whether I'm leaning into it or leaning away from it, influences the work. And so, yeah, I feel like there's always a little bit of social commentary going on with the things that I produce.
Amazing. And then for you, Puleng, how do you define your work to the world, basically? You're on mute, Puleng. Yeah, audio is a bit shaky, but move closer. Yeah.
It's difficult trying to explain like what I do, or even to just explain art. But for me, um, so how I got into described as collage work, and how I got into it. Actually, the first collage that I saw 2 years ago was a name collage, and that's what I loved about it. Was there was so many things interacting in like one piece, and I literally showed it to somebody, and I was like, I want to learn this. This is cool. How do I do this? And they were like, Photoshop. So for me, what I love about it is that I could chop things. Didn't have to be perfect. That's what I loved about it. But also, I describe it as, yeah, just trying to sort of like document or trying to express the things that are going on inside my head and in my spirit, in my heart. It's an expression of that. Sometimes it doesn't really make sense, but it's just an expression, really trying to express myself as best as I can to using like photography and, yeah, digital platforms.
Amazing. I mean, I'm a big fan of all three of you in terms of the work, and I've been trying to explain to people what kind of digital art it is. Do you ever struggle with that, like putting this work and really telling people this is digital art? It's not necessarily just photography or video. It's more digital art. Do you ever struggle with those challenges explaining to people and trying to showcase that? Anyone can answer.
You go first, Pauline.
You can go ahead, Kyle.
I find that the digital art like definition is more for myself than other people, because I think that sometimes, unless somebody's coming into it and being like, this is digital art, a lot of people just be like, this is photography, and that's perfectly fine with me. But I think I define it more as digital art for myself, just because I'm more involved in the process and I know sort of what's going on and how the work is coming about, and the kind of tools that I'm using to create the work.
Amazing. And for you, Pauline?
Find my work, for now at least, as digital art. I mean, I've had people refer to me as a photographer, and it's something that I tend to correct them and say I'm not a photographer, even though photography is one of the elements that is present in my work. I don't really want to be called a photographer. I want to be called a digital artist, because, yeah, and I mean, as a digital artist, I also feel that like I stumbled upon it, I got into it accidentally, and it's been the one medium that's allowed me to be as fluent as I can possibly be, especially as somebody who doesn't really, I don't know how to draw, I can't paint and all of that. So for me, yeah, I feel like it offers me that freedom that other mediums wouldn't necessarily offer me. And for the comfort that it's provided me with, I choose to identify as a digital artist.
And for you, Nat?
I feel like, yeah, I'm definitely an artist. I've been an internet baby, so I've always been figuring myself out online and digitally. So yeah, I am that. I'm trying to always like extend it and grow beyond. And I think the communities I've like slowly started to find kind of understand it. So it's not that hard. Like you don't have to explain. But to older people, I think it is not older, but people who just maybe just don't know what digital art is. I find that like I think how Buleng and both Kyle spoke about it is how it's broken up into many parts and how the process is very digital. Like even if you end up printing it, it can still have a very big digital presence. And I've also moved from just doing things online and virtual work to making things like 3D prints and stuff. And I still see that as part of like new media and digital art, because the process itself is so digital. So it's, yeah, I don't see it as just like one thing. As long as it has like digital influence and digital working, I see it as that. And that's how I try to explain it to people.
Amazing. So at least now people have a definition of what your works and individual practices look like and how they fit into digital art, into that space. So how does one find the medium? How does one find how does one find that inspiration in this particular space? You know, being able to create collage work, motion art. What is the thought process behind it and stuff? I don't know who can answer this, but I'm always fascinated by that. Like, what were you doing that drove your mind to that space and you managed to create? I'll start with Kyle.
I think for me, I started making photography because I was going through a very dark period in college, and it literally saved my life. And so that's how I really found the camera. I was able to express myself through self-portraiture, to be able to get some of the feelings that I was feeling out, and it was very cathartic for me. I think that it often just depends on what I want to say. And my most notable digital collage piece, for example, is a body of work I made a couple of years ago about my sister who passed away. And so thinking about digital, how the internet immortalizes us. And so we're immortalized by the internet, and how grief can work in digital spaces, and how the internet can be used as a tool to sort of survive grief. So it really just depends on what I want to say. But at the end of the day, I think that because the camera is something that I'm really comfortable using and expressing myself with, it's one of those things that I'm also very bad at drawing, like Puleng. So it's about trying to figure out how best I can express myself. And I find that working with not only the camera, but also using digital tools, especially software and different things, I find that I'm able to express myself more coherently than if I were to attempt a painting, for example.
Amazing. And for you, Natalie?
For me, I think I kind of just start. I don't know how to explain it, but it just happens, you know, like it starts with an image. I think with all our work, it kind of starts with an image where we are some type of center. And I'm really interested in softwares and like developing better skills with them. And so I think it's usually about me getting better at a software, but then I like make sure that I have content that like interests me in order to develop it. And then I figure out like a narrative, or I figure out my style through like mistake or just playing. So a lot of it is not like super intentional all the time, but it arrives at the destination, and it's often the same destination, but it's just the engagement of the different tools for me is how I develop my aesthetic. Same with like Photoshop, and when I used to do collage and stuff, I was just trying to learn, and through the learning process and the playing process, I actually developed my style. And once I like found the style, just the continuation of the practice made like solidified the aesthetic.
For you, Puleng?
Very similar to what Natalie and Kyle are saying, very, very similar. So I always knew that I wanted to express myself, but I felt very limited because growing up, I've always known like the traditional, I guess, like ways of creating art, but I could never create it, you know, because I wasn't gifted in that way. So I started creating because I had something to express. I started creating, I think like many people like to journal, but to also just when you want to express something, when you're drawn to certain things and you feel like you want to share them, or you just want to document them, you want to have them be tangible or be there, you know. And that's basically how I started. And yeah, with digital, it's been so kind. I feel like it's one of the kindest mediums for anybody, because like Natalie is also saying, it's experimentation that then led to a signature. The same with me, like I was learning and playing around, and then eventually I was like, oh, okay, this is how most of my work is coming out. So clearly this is the kind of style that I like, that I am into. And yeah, I just wanted to create because I just had things to express in myself that I didn't know how to explain them to people. And so even when I do start creating, it's not because I have something to say, but it's the artwork in the end that helps me put the picture together, that helps me figure things out. So I don't create because I've got a certain message to share or anything like that, but I create because I'm trying to figure something out, and the artwork gives that to me when it's done.
Amazing. I wish I had your how all of you approach your work in such a free spirit. I think too much. I think too much. And then in terms of cool, now that you've created the work, how do you then distribute this work? What are some of the methods that all of you are using in terms of distributing this kind of work to the world, basically? Anyone can answer it. Yeah.
Well, Instagram most of the time, social media. That's where I distribute my work, and that's where it like lives currently. But yeah, other than any other platform, yeah, social media has been the platform where I distribute my work. Yeah, and then the other ways are like traditional ways of like gallery spaces and exhibitions and things like that. But the first point where people will see my work is social media.
Yeah, kind of the same for me. Oh, hi. So cute. Kind of the same for me. I started on YouTube and then I started with Instagram. And from there, I actually got into gallery spaces. And so gallery spaces like do a great distribution because like you can actually sell, whereas Instagram just gets you this wide reach of people and access. I think that's the great thing about the internet. It's just the access, and the platform is pretty much whatever you want it like to be. So yeah, the internet is a big distributor, but not always the thing that's like, it doesn't necessarily, I mean, there's NFTs and stuff, but distribution in terms of like visibility versus distribution in terms of getting paid for the work. So it's about like navigating how the internet goes into real life and tangibility and selling the digital file, but still having an online presence, but still getting your money in real life.
Yeah, I'm the same way, like with Puleng and Natalie. I do share a lot on not a lot, I don't really share too much in terms of work on social media. I try to hoard as much as possible. I'm trying to get better about it. But with posting on Twitter, I mean, Twitter and Instagram is also what actually led to my first exhibition. And that's how people in gallery spaces have found me. And then with the COVID-19 pandemic, that sort of shifted everything because I would always share online, but I never really like made any money. And then people started seeing my work online and then inviting me to exhibitions. And so that's how I started getting paid for the work. And then the pandemic came. And once the pandemic came, people weren't going into the physical spaces anymore. And so suddenly that way to make money as a digital artist kind of got cut off for me. And so when Natalie mentioned NFTs, it's weird because even though I'm a digital artist, I think I've always just been drawn to very traditional art spaces. And so I've been very resistant when it comes to NFTs and adopting them. So in preparation for this talk, actually, I minted 3 NFTs. So yeah, and it was such a weird and interesting experience, but it's definitely like broadened my understanding of what it means to sort of try to monetize in the digital space. I think especially now it's very, very relevant because even though we're having vaccine rollouts and stuff like that, a lot of people are still very hesitant to go into physical spaces. So I think it's a really interesting way to make to connect artists and buyers.
That's amazing. Congratulations. Let us know when they sell. Let us know how to share that work, because I think that's amazing. Yeah, you went all out. Me and NFTs are somewhere there. We're close, but not that close. I'm good in conversation, but not in process. That's amazing. Actually, I was going to ask Natalie and all of you about NFTs. So since you've done the NFT process, what's Natalie and Puleng, have you both tried to experiment into that space? Because I think you can make a killing in that space.
I think so too. It's just so scary and confusing and like a weird ghost thing. But I feel like I'm getting closer and closer now. I've been really scared because it doesn't make sense. It feels like so intangible. But I'm starting to let go of that understanding and that thinking because I'm already working in the digital space, and I really like how like NFTs have this. I've always been trying to figure out actually with like videos and digital files how to just like reel it in and have like that authenticated, like this is one person's piece, or just for digital file, it feels kind of shaky. So that's something I really, really like about NFTs, and I'm getting closer. Like I'm super inspired now that Kyle did it. Now I'm like, maybe I should do it today. Yeah, I've been really scared because it just feels like it could evaporate. It's just so weird. But I think it's more about like getting informed and seeing it happen. I feel the same. Like traditional space has kind of ruined me because I'm a digital artist, and then I got into like galleries and like working in that way, and that felt so normal and that felt so secure. And now crypto is like a thing, and everybody's like telling me like you should be, and I'm just like, I know, it's just so scary. So I don't think it's as scary as I think it is. I think it's just being rigid, and I am very close to minting some stuff.
And for you, Puleng, before we get advice from Kyle.
So I'm quite a technical. For me, it's been a miracle that I'm a digital artist. I was that who's going to press any. So when people talk about NFTs, I was like, interesting. I still have sort of like that backward perspective of like, when Bitcoin came out and whatnot, I'm just like, hey, I need to like, I don't know. But I mean, I read up on NFTs and I saw like another cool thing like for artists is that even if your work gets sold over and over, royalties, which is like a very important and real thing that we should be talking about. And I mean, it's your work. So every time somebody else purchases it, even if it's the same piece, then you get some money out of it or a percentage. So I think that's cool. That's something that could drive me to it because right now I'm working in that way of like, yeah, the traditional sense and editions. And that's how I sort of like try to preserve the longevity of my income when I sell my work in editions. But I haven't looked into it, and I think it should be a natural progression should I decide to take that route, because yeah, just because some things are popping, and I mean, no discredit or anything like that, but I never just want to follow things because that's what is happening or what people think is progressive. I just really like to take my time and really understand what I'm getting into. And I guess having a manager would also help because they could be the people looking into these things. I'm sort of like that person. I like doing things when I'm guided and I know that I can have somebody to go and talk to and ask things, but for now, I don't know if I'll be doing that like soon. I always catch on a bit late and then I hop onto something. I just always like to take my time. So if it's not that close to me right now, then no rush. I will get into it when I have to get into it.
Amazing. I feel you, but at least my prompt has prompted Kyle to be able to mint three works. So what advice would you give to Puleng and Natalie on minting work today?
So it's interesting because there's so many different marketplaces that it can feel overwhelming to even try to think of where to go. I'm using OpenSea just because they only have like a 2.5% fee as opposed to some that can go as high as 15% when it comes to after the work has sold, but I think that it's one of those things where I'm very protective of my work, and even with like physical prints, I don't believe in having an infinite amount of prints out there. I usually print about 9 pieces or less, depending on the series. So even though I've gone into NFTs, I've only like made one of one, just to sort of keep more in line with how I want, where I want the work to go, to sort of try and keep some of that control still. I would say that if you're guided to it, then do it. I think it's an interesting way to engage with the audience. It cuts out the middleman, mostly of like galleries who do take a much larger commission. And I think also in terms of retaining some of that, those royalties are so important. I think that especially because when art is treated like a commodity, and like not only a commodity, but like an investment product, and that somebody buys a piece from an artist and then they sell it later for say $1 million or whatever ridiculous amount. By the time that piece is sold for $1 million or whatever, the artist is not going to get a penny. What they will get is the publicity and the exposure that their piece sold for $1 million, but they're not going to see a penny of that money because they don't get any like royalties or anything from the work changing hands. So I think that it does put a little bit of power back into the hands of the artist. And I think that in terms of minting the works, it's actually really simple. OpenSea has so many blog posts that you can read through that give you all these different explanations about how to go about it. I would say that if anything, just if you want to try it out, maybe try it out with very limited editions, and also just to put your foot in there, you know, and listing something doesn't mean that it's going to be bought. And I think you can always delete stuff. So I don't know, I think that in terms of minting the work, there's not really much advice except if you want to do it, then do it. And I think that it can be a really good tool to distribute the work and to connect directly with buyers instead of having to deal with galleries or with different traditional spaces.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, Natalie, you want to say something?
I was just saying, like, it's so cool, that point about cutting out the middleman and just like having, I think cutting out the middleman's interesting, is cool, but like we're already independent artists. Yeah. So if you're an independent artist, you're already doing that. But I feel like it's such a great way to archive also and like keep track, because that's usually what matters now. I think like having a proper digital archive of who's buying your work and how it's passing through is also super important. And as an artist now, doing all of that admin, like it's possible, but I feel like having an actual digital trail is the thing. But I also, like Kyle, I just want to say, like, I think your work is so cool, and I think your practice is so cool, because even though you speak as though you like you limited and stuff, I feel like you're a super courageous digital artist. You're always like pushing and moving within like the trends and what's current. So it's really cool to like, I think it's so cool and funny how you've like taken the prompt of this talk to go mint 3 things. But in general, I feel like I've seen that with your practice a lot. Like you really jump onto what's happening. And I just admire that.
Aww.
Thank you. This is like a very wholesome thing for me, because when I saw that it was you two, I was like, okay, this is cool. I'm a big fan of Natalie's work. I met her at Fak'ugesi a couple of years ago, and I was just like, hey, I've been following you on Instagram for some time. I love your work, and this is the first time I actually get to engage with Puleng face to face, because I also follow her work quite a bit. So this is a very nourishing space for me.
That's amazing. So clearly no one's a fan of my work. I'm joking. I'm a fan of all of yours work, so that's amazing. But I think in closing, it's really quite amazing to see like how digital art is moving forward, and I think it's super exciting to see what's possible and how all three of you take your work and how that's going to shift the world basically. Because I don't see your work as just African work. I see it as like this is the global norm, right? And that's amazing to watch and stuff. Any parting words for the people that are watching on the live stream, and if it's advice or any parting words?
I guess just do it. Like whatever you are bubbling to do, like whatever's boiling under the surface with your practice, just do it. And number two, like don't get too easily discouraged. Like, I don't know, I think just keep going. So yeah, start with just doing it, like start. And then number two, keep going in order to see where your work will go and grow with the times. Yeah, I don't know. That's advice to me too, because it's pretty hard. Like, it's hard navigating this stuff alone. And it's really cool that this panel is like 3 Black women navigating this space. Because like in the beginning, I literally would be like, who can I speak to? And now I feel like there are so many people like me, or like, you know, I have people to DM, which is very different from just 3 years ago. So it's definitely a growing space. And if anyone feels like they want to be in this space, you're fully valid and you should fully like break into it and take ownership and just like start calling yourself a digital artist, engaging, pushing your work. And once you do that, like just keep going, just be consistent. Yeah.
Amazing, very true.
I would just like to build on what Natalie has said, which I think is very sound and incredible advice, which is that a lot of the time, the person who gets the recognition or the success or whatever isn't even the most skilled person most of the time, but it usually is the person who's doing it. You know what I mean? And so like, somebody showing up every single day is often what matters a lot, more than being a talented person who doesn't show up as much. So being able to try to find a rhythm or like a cadence of consistency is going to be the thing that helps you it's going to be the thing that helps you in the long run, especially.
That's very true.
Like the women have and yeah, just to add on that, I feel like also, I mean, we love digital and social media, but it can be a bit intimidating sometimes. Like this whole thing of numbers and who's reacting, who's whatever. I feel it really like put a lot of people out if they're not getting the kind of reactions that they like. But that's obviously make one like just do you. Things will just come together. Like they don't be discouraged, disheartened. Just do you. That's all.
Yeah.
That's life.
Oh, that's your question.
And also, I was gonna say, like, keep your independence. I know this is like random, but I think that's something that we should do. Is like have our independence, because gallery spaces and all of these things often make us feel like that's where the security is. And I'm starting to learn that the security is in owning your practice. You can get help and get managed or whatever, but keep your independence as an artist and manage that and know what it means and be behind that. Like if you ever want support, find the best ways to support yourself, because galleries are great, and they really, really are. But I think that the way things are moving, it's gonna be great to be independent. It's just safer.
Yeah. No.
And remember to log off, which I think sometimes is, like you're always seeing people pushing out like works every 12 hours and you're like, well, I need to be working at this cadence as well. So I think that you can find balance between being consistent, but also at the same time, remembering that the internet is life, but it's not all life. And so being able to log off, especially when you feel vulnerable or like you feel intimidated or perhaps even sour, and you start internalizing a lot of negative self-talk as a result. So just remembering that while digital art spaces are great and being on the internet is fantastic, logging off every once in a while can bring a lot of clarity to both you and the work.
No, that's very true. That's very true. Well, on that. Sorry, Pulem, couldn't hear you. You were saying?
And kind of saying it's very important, and it goes just for life, even if you're not like an artist or whatever, just for life. Like, look after yourself, take care of your mind, and that is so important. The internet all the things. And sometimes your own view, like the internet.
Yeah. No, very true. So log off, be independent, be digital at the same time, and just do what's best for you. And independence, I think, is the future, particularly with technology and just the world, how it's shifting and stuff. I think we're gonna see some amazing stuff. So thank you so much for participating in this conversation. Thank you so much. I've learned so much. I might get tempted to mint something one day. Not this week. Not this week. But thank you so much. And that's about it. That's the entire conversation. Thank you to everyone watching online. There are no questions there. So clearly the conversation is clear and concise. I'll take it as that. But so if anyone wants to watch this conversation, you can play it back. It's live on YouTube and Swapcard, basically, and on our website. Thank you to Pulang, thank you to Kyle, thank you to Natalie for doing this. Thank you.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.